back to Common Ground, an inside look at Suffolk County. I'm your host, Sheriff Steve Tompkins. Now, on this side of the program, we have with us District Attorney Dan Conley, and he's going to talk to us about the issues of importance to you and why you should consider giving him your vote to become the next mayor of the city of Boston. Sir, thank you so very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Sheriff.
Really appreciate it. I know you've got a crazy schedule, so taking the time out is awesome. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with education. Where do you stand on education, and would you do anything different for the students and the parents of those students in the city of Boston educationally?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that education is the #1 issue in this campaign, and it should be. And I think you and I both work in a realm during our day jobs where we see the aftermath of failed education. So many of the individuals that offend, so many that are actually victims. If we drill down in their lives, and again, you see it in your work, the system of education here in Boston has failed them. You know, I have seen this time and again in my work, and I've come to the conclusion that the next mayor has an opportunity to be transformative on education. We have a very manageable urban education system, and it can be turned around and it can be improved significantly, and outcomes can be improved such that so many of our young people who are trapped in poverty and social dependence can get the kind of skills that they truly need to join the workforce and participate in productive lives. And I got a few ideas, to promote that. First and foremost, I believe every child in Boston, regardless of their ability to pay, should have the opportunity to have universal first-class preschool education. Studies are showing more and more that this is so important to closing the achievement gap. So many of our young and poor kids come to first grade or kindergarten without a certain set of skills that more middle class and more wealthy children have. My 2 children, for example, went to preschool and they had a successful career in elementary school and high school. And I'd like to see that for all of our kids. They also learn in that quality preschool setting other things. Let's call them student-centered skills, conflict resolution, empathy towards each other, being able to settle themselves and pay attention. These are all very important. If teachers don't have to spend all their time settling down in the class and dealing with non-academic things, our kids can do better. So that's something that I'm very committed to.
Where do you come down on the school committee? Should it be elected or should it remain appointed by the mayor?
I believe that the school committee should remain appointed by the mayor. I think the buck should stop with the mayor. The mayor should take full responsibility for the education of the school children of Boston. Prior to being district attorney, I was a member of the city council from 1993 to 2002. So when I got elected, we had an appointed school committee, but it had a sunset clause on it. So the voters needed to make a decision. Is this going to be permanent or is it going to sunset back into an elected school committee? Now, I'm old enough to know the results of an elected school committee, particularly the old 5-person school committee, which was rife with patronage, dysfunction, and it put the needs of adults ahead of the needs of children. I don't think parents play politics with their kids' education, so to me, politics has no place. I won't play politics with the kids' education. So I really believe that if you are truly for school reform, education reform in our city, you can't be for an elected school committee.
Where do you come down on charter versus public, or do you kind of stand for both?
I believe in a whole range of parental choices, and I think that's really another important part of my campaign and my message on education, empowering parents and giving them maximum choices. So for me, that means allowing more charter schools to begin, and to start up here in our city. And so I favor removing the cap on charter schools, or at the very least raising that number. We're at the very top right now. Many, many parents want this option for their children, but it can't be the only option. I support our traditional public schools. I certainly support our pilot schools, in-district charters, innovation schools, any number of options that parents can have to make good choices for their kids. But I think that statistically and reviewing the results, Charter schools have made a very powerful case that they should be replicated and duplicated here in our city. 70% of charter school kids are performing at a proficiency level. This is across all races and across all socioeconomics, divisions or categories. And they've proved time and time and again that they're successful. I would like to see some of those great strategies that are being developed in our charter schools pushed out to our traditional public schools. And I think that certainly begins with allowing these schools, whatever the class they may be in, charter, traditional public, or whatever, more autonomy at the school level. We also need to remember the charter schools are public schools, and they're not private schools, they're public schools, and parents should have more choices. So I favor an expansion of charter schools in our city to give parents more choices.
What qualities will you be looking for in your school superintendent?
Well, I certainly want a dynamic leader and somebody who is willing to try new ideas and be innovative. I think that one of the things that really needs to happen is the school system needs to be flipped upside down in many ways. Right now, it's a top-heavy management structure that pushes down policies and procedures in a one-size-fits-all approach. And that doesn't work. We find that the successful schools are from the ground up. The teachers and the principals themselves are being creative, they're being innovative, they know what works, and they ought to be given that flexibility. So whoever I select, aside from first and all being a person of great integrity and character and judgment, I want him to be innovative, and I want him to be open to the fact that it's not going to be a top-down management heavy structure, and they're going to have to be willing to reach, to empower, I should say, the principals and teachers at the school level to make important decisions.
Final question in the education category. Talk to us about the way that you will foster a good, strong, vibrant working relationship with the Boston Teachers Union.
Well, I respect teachers. I have many friends that are teachers, Boston public, charter, and private school teachers. I know how hard they work and how invested most of them, if not all of them, are in their work. So I will start off always with, the extension of a hand of friendship to anyone that wants to work with us. But again, I think the next mayor has an opportunity to be transformative, and that means open to new ideas and innovation, to finally and fully close the achievement gap, be the first city in the United States to do that. We're going to need the teachers union to be partners with us. I hope that they won't come to this table and push back on every innovative idea. My hope is that they will not do that, and they will embrace some of these great new ideas. And I think that many of them want this as well. I know I lead an office of young professionals, so I know how hungry the young lawyers, for example, in my office are for training and development and feedback. I want so much of that for our Boston Public School teachers to get that opportunity as well. So, I hope that we get off to a great start, and I respect them. I'm certainly not anti-teacher. I am pro-parent, and I want parents to be engaged and empowered to make good decisions for their own children.
Let's talk about public safety, but first, tell us whether or not you would keep the present commissioner, Commissioner Davis, in place, and then how would you go about, what would a Conley administration look like when we talk about public safety and safeguarding the citizens of Boston?
Well, in this race for mayor, public safety is an important issue. It's come up in forums and at neighborhood coffees and the like. We've got a great field of very good candidates, but I'm the only candidate in this field that really even has a day's worth of public safety experience. I've been through a number of crises. I think you know that, and I believe that I've done a good job managing these crises. So when the first one comes along as mayor, and I hope they never do, but we know that reality is reality, that I'm tested and I'm ready to lead. I run a very large public complex organization, which is a public safety organization. I've been innovative, progressive, and I think that those ideas that I brought to the DA's office took a very good office and made it even better. I think that's what I can do in a whole host of realms in city government. Now, with respect to public safety, and you asked a direct question about Commissioner Davis, would I keep him? I was asked that direct question not too long ago by a Herald reporter, and I answered it very directly, yes, if he will stay, I will keep him. Ed and I have a a close working relationship already. Aside from my wife, maybe, and a few other people, I talk to him more frequently than anybody in this city. So I knew Ed Davis before he was Boston Police Commissioner, and I worked with him closely for the last 6 or 7 years. So we have that kind of relationship, and it's an important appointment for any mayor. And I respect any candidate who says, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach, because they don't have the same benefit that I have of working so closely with Ed Davis. With respect to everybody else in city government, you know, I'm interested in keeping great people in their positions if I think they're the best fit. But with Ed, if he wants to stay and was willing to stay, I'd like him to.
In the context of running for an office, running for the office of mayor here with your day job and night job actually, is that complicated because you do have a pretty intense job, but you're also running for a high office? Are you able to, well, clearly you're able to mix the two, but how are you able to mix the two so that you can pay equal attention to both sides of that equation?
Well, I've taken the position really since the day I announced, April 4th, that I must fulfill my obligations and my duties as district attorney. That's what I was hired to do by the voters in 2002, 6, and 10. And so that's my priority. And I draw a very bright line and a distinction between my work as district attorney and my campaign. So for example, you know, we have 2 press spokesmen. We don't merge in any way. And when, you know, significant events happen that require my attention, you know, we've had the marathon, we've had the most recent homicide in South Boston. They take priority, and so my campaign schedule gets canceled, and my work as district attorney takes precedence and priority, and that's the way I've chosen to approach it. And you know, sometimes that hurts in the campaign, but it's more important to me that the citizens know that, you know, I'm a man of integrity and character. I'm going to run my office first and foremost, and I hope, you know, maybe by doing that too, I demonstrate that I have the ability to lead, I have the ability to manage, and fulfill my duties, and that would translate well if they choose to elect me mayor of Boston.
Talk to us about the economy and jobs. How would you stimulate more growth in the way of, in the sense of bringing more jobs to the city, and how would you keep businesses that are presently here and not fleeing to other states?
So I spent a lot of time on the campaign trail talking to, you know, mostly young entrepreneurs. We have a great sort of startup economy here in Boston. We have so many young professionals who live in our city. They're highly educated. Many of them didn't grow up here, but they've been educated here. They love our city and they want to stay. So I think the most important thing we can do is support them and advance their cause, if you will, in high-tech jobs, innovation, biotech, life sciences, green energy jobs. They're proliferating down in the Innovation District, in the Downtown Crossing area, and in the Leather District, for example. I'd like to see some of that growth pushed out to our neighborhoods. You know, some of the outlying neighborhoods where the cost of leasing space, for example, is significantly less than it is here. You know, you go to these startup companies, a lot of times all they need is a cubicle and a laptop and access to the internet. So one of the things, you know, Mayor Menino tried it and wasn't successful, but I'd like to see Boston really, for once and for all, become a true hotspot with access to the internet in every neighborhood of Boston, wireless. And that's something that I'm going to do, because again, you can start up a company in Dorchester or Roxbury or Hyde Park or West Roxbury or East Boston in places where the rent is cheap, and you can begin your